it's one of those things where, when you help someone clean and go through it, I now really understand the Mary Kondo, like this thing brings you joy.
Right.
So now that I've been through that whole process, I'm like, man, I really gotta reevaluate the crap I buy. However, the people I know are going to get delightful gift suits of hand-me-downs of stuff that I found in my
Secret Santas.
Not even just be like, you know what? I may want this. Doesn't spark joy, but you know who will spark joy? One of my friends will get this really old thing that they might enjoy, and I'm sure it's like happy to get out of my house. So it's a good time.
As long as it's not like the ashes of a loved one, then
it depends on who that loved one is, bro.
Oh, what an honor.
Yeah, it depends.
What an honor.
Yeah, what an honor. Yeah,
Stu?
John.
Who is this?
Just open it and you'll find out. Just take a nice sniff.
This is the worst genie ever.
Yeah, I it's on my list. The 3,000 Years of Yearning, that movie with Idris Elba. So speaking of genies, so we'll see what it is.
But I have a feeling as collectors, like, look at the three of us are collectors in some form or another, right?
Yeah.
Do you think though, as collectors, that we're fancy hoarders because we're called collectors? Because like all those like slabs I have, like I'm at this point, and I've been saying this to John for the last couple months, I'm ready to get rid of them because they've brought me joy looking at them, and now I'm ready to offload them because I don't need them anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think for me, I go through cycles. I go through cycles of things that I like, things I collect. But there's a lot of people who just like collecting and they keep going.
Yep.
So is collecting
but does it never come back and bite you in the ass when you've sold that thing and you're like, man, I wish I had that?
No, I think it's a lot of things in life where it's about market conditions. I had a friend who had this poster that he was very proud of. He got a Walking Dead poster signed by the original cast. And at the peak of like Walking Dead, he like outsold it, and then he was like laughing all the way to the bank, like the very, very highest of the Walking Dead thing. He sold it with all the signatures of the cast members, and to this day he'd be like, man, I sold it. And he's like, should I have held on to it? I'm like, no, it's like 6 years ago was the pinnacle of the Walking Dead. Like there's no way it's going to be worth anything more than what he was able to unload it for a few years ago. So I think to your point, the hoarding, the collecting, I think if you're realistic as to you bought it at a certain condition, you're willing to sell it, as long as they're not a net loss and you kind of break even. If that's the expectation, that's fine. The days of old where you bought a Superman comic book and it sat there, you open it like, oh, that was $1 million. That is an unrealistic expectation. Right. I think that's the perils of collecting in this space, is that everyone thinks there's Superman comic is going to be worth $1 million in 10 years time. And, John can talk to us all about the crazy 90s when, they Marvel and DC were basically just selling like all these copies of comics that double the production and now worth nothing. Right.
Yeah. Our shop was never open during the boom. They call it the 90s boom. But I've seen other shops with box fulls of a single issue. Like we'll have a stack nowadays, modern times. But back then, you would order boxes and picture long boxes full of X-Men #1 from the Jim Lee Claremont era. That's why they're not worth anything right now.
Yeah,
but because there's so many of them out there. But I can't imagine what that era must have been like.
But I remember shopping in that era. Like I remember going to the comic book store and buying the Death of Superman in the poly bag. I remember the X-Men #1. And I remember people saying, "Oh my God, this is gonna be worth so much money." And I would have been in my early 20s, and late teens, early 20s. And I'm like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna like make bank." It never occurred to me that me and all 80 other dudes that were in the line had the same plot multiplied by the 900 comic shops at the time across Toronto. And it was like because they printed like over Rob Liefeld is always going on about how he has the #1 sales records for X-Force and everything else of that. Yeah. And he does because he had printed like 1.9 million copies of these books, right? Yep. So you're not making anything. They're still worth the $1.25 you bought it, unless it's graded at like a high mint condition,
Yeah,
right? So.
exactly. It's same thing happened with baseball cards and basketball cards in the early 90s and the 80s once they figured out that was the thing. So all these rookie Ken Griffey Jr. cards are like, oh, it's going to be worth so much money. And then they made so many copies. They're like worth nothing. So it was that time in the early, 90s, like late 80s, early 90s kids at home where they overdid it thinking, and then the supply went crazy and now you can get the stuff for nothing. So
and the bubble burst literally overnight. And you had all these shops were starting to close because it was all you realized, oh shit, like everybody has these.
And now we're at the point where sales are low and they're scaling back, but it was a different experience back then. So that's your thing in the kid corner. So welcome everyone to the Heroes World Quarantine Podcast. I'm your host, one of them, Stu Pei. With me is one of the owners, proprietors of Heroes World. That'd be Mr. John Ho. Please say hello.
Hi, folks.
And our resident Prince Lord of Mischief, Mr. Rob Cadet. Please say hello.
I've been elevated. Wow. Like, hello.
I think it's actually demotion because technically God is the one, but
Yeah, but I was a Prince of Mischief. Now I'm the Lord of Mischief. So much like King Charles, I have moved up.
No, I think Lord is a demotion. If you think about it too, I think I've demoted you by mistake.
You
think I might have. Yeah. I think it's what like Lord.
So now I'm the Harry.
You shoved. Wizard. Yeah, I think I might have inadvertently moved you down the pecking order because I think Prince is above Lord.
Oh, for sure. You're probably right. I guess if we're going on Game of Thrones, then yes, I would agree. So thanks a lot, Stu.
Yeah, maybe I'll promote you back to Lord Commander, and then I'm Lord. Thanks. Then we'll move you up a bit. Welcome everyone. As we do something a little different. we there's been a lot of stuff coming out, and I think we've been talking in our little private group about, hey man, it's one thing fun to talk about the first couple episodes, but we should really talk about a season as a whole. So we're going to talk about one of our guilty pleasures, one of the shows we really enjoy. The three of us have been very happy talking about it over and over again.
For all mankind.
You haven't even finished watching that.
I did.
Yeah, Rob did. I messaged confirmed. We're talking about The Bear. No. We're talking about Cobra Kai. The Bear is
good.
It's on our list. It's on our list. Yeah, but we're here to talk about Cobra Kai season 5. I can't believe we're at season 5. I think we're all super hyped at season 1, and I think this will be a fun pod because I think a lot of probably, if you're where I'm at a definite crossroads. We know there's more potentially shows from the Cobra Kai universe that's being produced. So
the Miyagi-verse, I think they call it, right?
The Miyagi-verse. So I'd like to know our thoughts, our feelings on whether, if you haven't watched the season, is it worth the full season as a whole? Generally what we thought, because as much as we enjoy Chozan as a character, spoiler, who was in an episode of season 4, prepare for a lot more of him in season 5. We're just going to thoughts on everything. So John, we'll jump to you quickly. Just at a peripheral, season 5, you, just as a give everyone a reminder, you watched, of course, the 4 seasons before, and you've watched how many of the Karate Kid movies?
I've watched them all. I even saw the Jaden Smith Karate Kid in theaters.
So you watch both new Karate Kids movies? So
is next Karate Kid considered a new Karate Kid movie?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, next Karate Kid I did watch back in the day. I don't remember any of it at all. But I did freshly
Oscar winner Hilary Swank.
No. Yeah. Oscar winner, $1 Million Baby, right?
Baby.
But I did freshly watch 1, 2, and 3 when the original 2 Cobra Kai seasons came out. I was an early adopter and did watch it on the whole YouTube Premium service. So
okay, so that's good. Rob, what is your, just as a baseline knowledge? What is your? You've watched all 5 seasons of Cobra Kai, correct?
Yep, I have.
And in terms of the movies, have you watched all the movies?
Oh yeah, I grew up. Karate Kid was like a staple, an 80s staple. I watched that, and I watched number 2, and then not so much. I watched them all. Number 3 was always like my least favorite of the trilogy. The next Karate Kid was, the 90210-ification of the Karate Kid universe. And then I also saw the Jaden Smith one with
the Justin
Jackie
Bieber
Chan.
track. Never
What?
say never. That Justin Bieber song with him and Jaden Smith.
Okay.
No?
And
Yeah.
I saw that.
You check your car. It's on your history.
And I was like, yeah, this is not the Karate Kid, man. I don't understand it. But whatever. Yeah, man. I have a huge affinity for the first movie.
Okay. So now that the people at home have an understanding
And
where we're at.
Stu?
Yeah, I watched all 5. I've seen all the Karate Kid movies. I'm similar to you. It was something I grew up watching. I think I'm a little
because you're the youngest generation.
I'm the youngest of the 3 on this pod by a wide margin.
That's too many wides, dude. You could have one less.
I'm like what? 19?
Would have been appreciated.
I don't know. I think I'm 19 or something. I think I'm just above age to drink. Yeah. Sure, 21. I'll say 21. So I'm the youngest of the 3 of us. You old boomers can tell me how you feel about the show.
I remember the 80s.
You probably even saw it in the movie theaters. Probably. Did you?
Did you, Rob? Did you? I didn't. I saw them on home video after.
No, I saw number 2 in the theater. Yeah, number 2 and 3, I think, not number 1.
Ooh, fancy. Video. All right. Yeah, the 2 John grew
but
up.
But I didn't drive there. I'm not that old.
I remember driving to Karate Kid.
John. Well, the thing is, Rob had to crank his Model T vehicle and then
had to wind up the car.
Had to wind up the car and be like, "Mom, Pops, I'm going to in a movie." It's like, "Oh, wind up
the cigarette smoker, the lighter, it popped out."
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, what's wrong with the Flintstones cards?" Like, "Oh, my bunions are hurting." Rob would normally just yabba dabba do his way to the theater, but it's the problem. So, all right, now that we kind of have a baseline, we all were hyped, we all liked it. Season 5 is definitely a change. John, what's your thoughts without spoiler? Do you recommend, now that you've watched all of this, do you recommend someone watch season 5?
Yeah,
if they were on the fence on season 4, because you came off season 4 going, I don't know about this. Is it worth your time to watch?
I think so, especially if you've already invested, you're getting. I feel like I'm interested to hear what you guys say because I think we're going to go different directions here. But I feel like if you've already invested and you've enjoyed the previous seasons, this season is just more of what you had fun with. Season 4, I would say at the beginning it wasn't as strong for me, and it kind of turned itself around towards the end. I was ready to say, man, this is the worst season, and I think it would rank as one of my lower seasons, but for some reason, season 5, I feel like really just came back with a vengeance. So I'm actually very overall happy with it. And considering this is a season 5 of a show that has no business making it past season 1 or making it past a YouTube short, to be honest, has kind of surprised everybody.
Season was good, real good.
Yeah, no, but if you saw that on paper, Stu, if we were reading, we were walking in theater and we saw a poster for it, we'd be like, yeah, okay, good luck with that, guys. But so I think it had expectation versus what was delivered. They really did a great job, especially those early seasons. So I think you will not be disappointed with this one.
I think Rob and I have had this conversation constantly on a chat that him and I are talking of, and it's always about, at this point, there's so much wonderful content on the internet, and at this point I'm not afraid to be like, you know what, I'm out. Like, if I'm out, I'm out, and it doesn't matter how many seasons I'm invested in. It's like, maybe I'll come back if I knew that the show finishes season 6, but at this point I have no shame in, like, after one episode, like, this
no,
Cash, I'm out.
You should pull the plug on, like we were talking to Rob earlier about Andor. He didn't enjoy episode 1. So we're like, hey, you know what? Maybe this. Well, I think, hey, maybe this is not serious for you. But this show has been structured in its length and the way it delivers its story plot points, which is like bam, 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 bam. This show is one that you can just turn on and be done with it, right?
Yeah, it definitely has the Netflix-ish vibe of binging. So it does kind of roll off the tongue in a way where you can just stream like a bunch in a row or all of it at once without really feeling too bloated. But there's plus and minuses to that method. But Rob, to your, as I was mentioning, in terms of not being afraid to pull the shoot, I think all of us were kind of like, season 4 was season 4. And after watching do you recommend watching season 5?
Rob's a completist, so he's going to watch it till the bitter end.
I don't know if the question is, if you didn't like season 4, should you watch this one?
That's the question, yes.
I know, but I think the question, though, could be like, Okay, if you were, yeah, you know what? If you didn't really like season 4, should you watch this? No. Like, I think if you didn't
more
like
the same.
season 4,
Yeah.
I don't think season 5 is going to redeem it for you. I'm opposite of John. I don't think this season was it better than 4. I'm pretty disappointed to be honest with you. I watched it in a full weekend, not out of a love of this property, but out of being forced to by my son, who was like, "Come on, let's keep going." And I'm like, "I'm gonna miss Game of Thrones." And we watched like the final 4 episodes on the Sunday. I was just, it was a struggle for me to get through this. Chosen was probably the best reason to tune into the series. But yeah, if you've ended season 4 being like, you know what, I think I'm kind of done. For me, my opinion is there's nothing redeeming in season 5 to pull you back in.
Yeah, it's. I think Rob, it's funny because I think we're saying the two where it is a show where it tries to pull you through nostalgia, and season 4 was fine, and season 5 is also fine. I think that it's this season a teeny bit better question mark, because I think we can say if you've watched this already, I think Daniel Larussa has been so bad as a character for the last 4 seasons. This season actually he wasn't like the worst part of the show, which I would say is better. Typically anytime I see Daniel LaRussa, I'm like, can we fast forward to when he's not on screen, because he's such a douche on the show, like it's just a complete.
Okay, I got a theory about that later. Why people hate Daniel so much.
No, it's not even that. It's just like I just think that there's no story for him. Like he's the most boring character, right? Like he's the guy that like got everything. So you're like, what is there left to do for him to really? And they put these storylines in a couple seasons of like, oh, maybe this happens, but no one buys it. And I think this season actually they made him a little more likable. He's been doing really weird things for the thing, and for the last 4 seasons, going the question, I'm like, again, we all, even the bit in How I Met Your Mother where, spoiler alert, where Barney talks about Cobra Kai not as the Danny LaRusso movie, but the William Zabka, Joey Lawrence vehicle of Cobra Kai, like that kind of, I guess, spun into the TV show into existence. And you do like the Joey Lawrence Zabka stuff more
Johnny
than
Lawrence.
Johnny Lawrence.
Joey Lawrence, different guy.
Yeah, I'm just William Zabka. More than any of the Ralph Macchio, Daniel LaRussa stuff, and it pains me because in terms of like, he's kind of like, it's not interesting for because he kind of had the storybook ending. He shouldn't really be in the show. It should have been written off a while ago.
Yeah, and nobody believes this guy is still a formidable opponent. Like, I'm sorry, man, but I don't know if Ralph Macchio is just not doing any training, any fight choreography or anything.
I think he's oldest out of all of them. I think, to my understanding,
yeah,
he just he played like he was older out of all of them back in the day, and I guess he played younger. He looked fantastic. I think he still looks good. Yeah,
he's 60, but
look at Liam Neeson. Like, Liam Neeson looks like a much more formidable opponent who's older than Ralph Macchio, because they do training and he does choreography and this and that. And I feel like when Daniel LaRusso is sitting there and he puts his hands up and he moving, like, you're not freaking me out, bro. I'm not scared you're all of a sudden going to like kick my ass. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he really needs to go to the Tom Cruise School of Running. Like, really needs to like get into that. Really, the whole bit needs a Bowflex, needs a Thigh Master. Just get yourself on there and get yourself.
Look at William Zabka. That guy, he looks intimidating. Like, he looks like he's in for a brawl. Like, I'm just saying, I don't know.
Even the physical piece doesn't think, but I just think he's such a. They wrote him such a whiny, boring character that it really pains me to watch a lot of the stuff. But let's go into, like, I think this season he's gotten much better, so that alone is worth the time to watch season 5. My question to you, John, before we go into heavy spoilers, is that we know there's going to be 6. Like, should this be the end, or like, should there be any more after this? Should you write off all the old characters and just continue with the kids? Like, what do you see that makes sense for this? Because it is painful to kind of see the way things are going, because the way things are going. So
I think they've already they're already kind of hinting at the groundwork by calling it the Miyagi verse. That you will see it. Well, in order, I guess, for it to succeed, you will have to see some branching off. So other characters, I think, have to be separated. Like if when I first started firing up this season, I forgot Daniel LaRusso was in the mix. I was like, oh, great, the Johnny Lawrence show is back. And I'm like, this is sweet. And like, oh, wait, this guy's in this show too. So they've added so many characters that if they continue with this formula, which is like, this fast, easy, digestible show, I think they can continue with some, spin-off type content.
Well, I think the Miyagi show is a prequel. So it's like young Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, if they do young Mr. Miyagi, they could split off into a dedicated Johnny show. They could split off into the Adventures
I'm actually
of Chosen.
good with no Johnny anymore. So I think they should pull full Star Wars and just be done with the old guys and just focus on like, hey, I want to see more.
They could be relegated to more of a recurring cast.
Yeah, like I don't even know if I want to see Hawk anymore. Like, give me Mouse. Give me like a different character at this standpoint. Like, let's just. Do you want more
Dimitri? Dimitri was relegated back to a recurring character this season. I don't know if you know, he was main cast for like the middle bit, and then he got bumped back off. This kind of sucks for him.
Well, it might be just because he had other things going on in terms of things. Like, I'm good with moving a different direction. Just adding different characters, different ethnicities, and just going back that route, because there really isn't a reason anymore for that, especially to continue on that universe. Maybe have them be recurring or support, but really at this point, I don't want to see these old, as Rob said, old men fight anymore. Like, it's kind of just stupid. 60-year-old men fighting and punching. I'm like, like, if I want to see this again, I'll watch Taken. This whole universe doesn't make sense to me. It's like, I feel like it's like Sliders. You walk into a universe where karate matters in LA. It's like, oh, this universe is just like,
I think that's the brilliance of the show.
This universe is like our universe, John. Everything's the same except karate. There's like a weird karate thing where
karate is the top. MMA didn't come and take the crown or the belt, but karate maintained its hold on.
Like I can imagine, like at for those who live in the GTA, like at the Markham Mall, you walk in, there's a Cobra Kai, and in one of the mall's things, you're like, oh, I should sign up for Cobra Kai. It's like, oh yeah, sure, let's do karate at the local mall.
I think that's the brilliance of the show, that this Cobra Kai is much like Cobra and G.I. Joe, that they're rising up to take over the world. It's such a ridiculous concept, but I think it
would love if this was the beginning of G.I. Joe and like the actual Cobra Kai universe.
It looks like they could
this
sell
is Cobra.
Cobra Kai could become some corporate entity, much like Tekken or like Cobra, where they're just ruling the world. Like, I think it's funny.
If Terry Silver becomes Cobra Commander, I'm in. Like, he just gets a terrible acid accident and he's like becomes Cobra Commander. I'm like, put the helmet on. Let's do this.
He'll relegate himself back to being Destro. Let's face it.
Well. Chris Eccleston is Destro. Just leave him alone, man. Just leave him alone. All right, we're gonna go into spoilers because I think we're dancing around this. I don't think we can really go. So if you have, I think all of us are go on the journey, watch Cobra Kai season 5.
I liked it. I did like this season.
I wouldn't say drop everything to do it, but get there. It's not a must watch in my books. I think that's what Robin. Is that safe to assume, Rob? Not like a drop everything down.
How about out of 10, Stu? What would you give it out of 10 this season?
I was going to ask you that question, John.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, what are you giving it out of 10?
What am I giving it out of 10?
Yeah.
All right, so based on the fact that this is a season 5, like, I don't know how many other season 5s of shows are even
a lot, John. There's a lot of shows. 6 seasons in a movie. There's a lot of things with.
No. But how many shows didn't start basically becoming fan service at the point of season 4 or whatever? Like Smallville. I can't remember where the sweet spot was. I want to say maybe it was season 4. I don't know.
No, I feel like it was 7 or 8.
Yeah. Well, I don't
because
know.
that's when they introduced like Young Justice, and then Justin Hartley showed up, and there was Green Arrow. It was like a weird.
I don't know.
Thing.
All shows that kind of gotten to that point have gotten kind of weird. Like I don't know if Rob remembers when Flash jumped the shark for him, right? But
season 3,
yeah. See, so now we're on season 5, like 2 more seasons after that. I feel like the show has done a good job of maintaining where it goes. So I give it a solid I would say this season I did fly through it after it got rolling. The first couple episodes not as strong to me, but overall the season I would say maybe 7 out of 10.
Oh, interesting, Rob.
4.5.
Yikes!
4.5.
Yikes! Undesirable this season.
Wow!
Totally for Rob.
Wow!
Man.
I was gonna give it a 5, and then you guys were talking about Cobra Kai, and I remembered that. Oh, that's right. By season episode 7, they had more locations than a Starbucks in a very small suburb of Southern California, and I was like, "Knock it out!"
Remember, Terry Silver's
hilarious.
Remember, Terry Silver's very rich, so it's not hard to like stamp a thing on the wall. So like, it's not that bad.
I'm about 4.5.
I gave it a well. I gave it a 6.5. 6.5. Like I'm not as bad. I think again
so low.
I
think you get what you're signing up for. Like this show.
No, and I'll explain why. I'll explain why.
Okay. So now, John, before can you really throw up the spoiler tag? Because so those who are listening at home, we're going to full spoilers. We're gonna start with Rob first because I want to get to his thoughts. And then John's gonna bring us back up with his list. So, Rob, tell us, air your grievances. Tell us.
And just with the caveat that John might bring up something that will reoccur in my brain,
and we'll come back.
I have to jog your memory on what you hated from this.
I don't think I have to like bring the microphone and just like lie here and just talk about it.
Just like Festivus. Don't worry, there'll be another time for you to air your grievances. Go on. Yes.
So listen. Okay, I didn't watch season 1 when it came out because I refused to sign up for YouTube Red. I didn't see season 2 because I did refuse to sign up for season YouTube Red. But I heard all about it, and I heard the original premise was stuff that we had you started hearing a lot about. Maybe it was around the How I Met Your Mother time, or maybe before that the Karate Kid is more Larussa was the bully. If you look at it, you change the point of view, the lens to Johnny, you start to realize, Larussa was an asshole. And I was like, that's a pretty cool premise. And then when they came out with the first season, you hear about it. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I would love to see that one day. And then Netflix bought it up and dropped those first 2 seasons right away. And I was able to watch it. And I really enjoyed season 1 for what it was, because it scratched that nostalgic itch. And I enjoyed season 2 because it built upon what the foundation of season 1. And again, was scratching that itch, and you were seeing these callbacks to these movies that I grew up watching. And season 3, again, now full Netflix budget and this and that, built upon that. And I was like, I was really into it. I really enjoyed those seasons. I thought season 4 was decent, but that I felt it was kind of getting a bit bigger, but I still felt it was tied to the original source material. The first season where I felt that the absurdity of it all, that I felt like it lost its connection to the source material almost entirely. I couldn't care less about the Terry Silver. Like, he was so over the top, like buffoonery on madman twirling, mustache twirling madman. I was like, this is crazy. Like, it didn't feel like it had, like, listen guys, I get it. It's a karate show with a bunch of kids, but they still had a foot in realism that I was able to at least be like, I can watch it. This felt
really,
this felt like it was like this. Okay, so for an analogy wise, it felt like it had a foot in the 90s Power Rangers kitsch. It felt like if people have tweens, kids out there, or maybe even young girls who are like in the 9, 10, 11 age, and they're watching some of these Victorious and some of these other kind of crazy TV shows that are kind of geared towards that, what we would be the Saved by the Bell generation for us on Saturday mornings. It felt like they were really, that Netflix, I don't know if they had a different producer, but it steered it more towards the younger kids and the more goofiness of stuff. Yes, they were dropping a couple F-bombs here and there. Yes, you saw some dude get his fingers.
Whoa.
But that was, I think, just to keep us as the adults, somewhat entertained. Because I really felt that it was it bordered on just lunacy. I didn't like the whole story of the senseis coming from overseas and to try to find their grand champion so that they could then essentially bring back this form of martial arts out of the shadows of like an obscurity and of a bad name to bring it to prominence. I was like, that's what the hell are we talking about? And then to have to go fight in some crazy tournament. Now I was like, this is basically
a plot line from Iron Fist. This is like, oh yeah, the eternal, each of the eternal planes have to come together for a tournament of champions. If this also leads to Mortal Kombat, I'm also involved. I'm also on board. If Daniel Larusso shows up and he has to fight like Goro, then I'm also.
He fought Kano in this. No, he did. Johnny fought Kano.
I honestly felt like as I was watching this, I lost all connection to the original material. I
thought you were going to say I was losing my intelligence as
I was losing my all sense of intelligence, all sense of a reality. I thought I was on a bad mushroom trip. I really wished like it. It's too bad because like I know like my son really liked it and he enjoyed it and listen, it's not for me like the worst thing I've ever watched because trust me, I've watched a lot of shit. It was okay. There are moments like I liked watching Chosen. I liked the stuff, but if you go back and compare this season to the storylines, even some of the dialogue of the first two, even the third season, like. It's really hard to say, wow, how did you get from there to here? Like it felt like there was way too many cooks in the kitchen to be able to make what they made for season 5. And I'm just, John, you put up that picture of that girl, of the sensei, the female sensei. I thought that they brought in all these characters, including this individual, at the sacrifice of everything else that we've built upon with these other characters, these other kids that we've kind of been watching. Like you saw the kids at the beginning of the season, they were at the pool and they were fighting. They had that whole skirmish, and then you didn't see the rest of them until like the last episode. And I was like, what happened? Because their stories were sacrificed for this really bizarre plot. And so for me, I thought you took away the best part of this and you made it a Terry Silver show. Is really what it came down to. And I couldn't care less about Terry Silver. So for me, I'm out. Like Dragon's Den, I was just like, and that's why I'm not investing.
I'm out.
But here's the thing: you're out, but your son's going to drag you back in. So what's the point? It's like if your son enjoys it, you're going to watch it with him. Yeah, this is the 80s. Rob is out in the mountainside, cutting wood, and his son, as a general, comes out. It's like, Mr. Cadet, we need you, and you'd be like, I'm out. He's like, no, only you have the Delta Force connections. He's like, fine, I'll come back for one last mission.
Bring those boys home.
Back until your son's like, you have to get him out. The problem is every summer you're going to be in the woods cutting a tree down and be like,
no, and then I would say, all right, Trotman, one last go, and he'll be like, who's Trotman? I'm like, forget it. No, listen, there is enough, a vestige enough to pull me back for season 6 because
until they go to space, and then you're going to be like, I'm out. But it doesn't matter because he's going to come up and be like, Mr. Cadet, I need you on this mission. He's like, I thought I was out when they went to Mars, and they went to a Mars fighting, and they're fighting aliens. No.
They're opening up a dojo in Mars.
This time, it's time travel. They're going back to fight at the Consumers Distributing Tournament in Markham, Ontario, where Cobra Kai needs to fight in the Consumers Distributing to get the last Ninja Turtles action figure. So this is what's
the last Cabbage Patch Kid. Yeah. No, honestly, I will watch season 6 because he'll want to watch it. I will watch it with him for that reason. Because if I really was steadfast, like I will never watch this shit again, I would just tell him I'm out. You have to do it on your own, and that's fine. I will watch season 6, but I will probably do it without the excitement or the anticipation or whatever of going into a new season. I will be like, okay, let's just go and get it done. And I would actually hope that season for me turns around and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. There is a redemption, because I get it. You can't, it's ebbs and flows on shows. It's very hard to maintain, or, but yeah, man, I'm really happy that you guys enjoy. I know John really enjoyed it, but I just felt
it's hard because
I would rather go back and watch those first couple of seasons, because that just felt so much more special and better.
I think the high of season 3 when they brought back Elizabeth Shue, and you're like, oh, there's Allie. This is when things are gonna go real. And it was a breath of fresh air to watch Elizabeth Shue be that character again and just have the best grand old time with Amanda Larusso, because Courtney is like, our boyfriend, your ex-boyfriend and my husband are idiots. Let's just hang out. And you'll be like, yeah, this is the show I want. If it's just the two of them hanging out, drinking wine and just talking about these two idiots, I'm also down with that too, because I think it's one of those things where the farther you kind of move away from Daniel LaRusso, the better the show gets. But that's we'll get to that. John, give us your things that you liked.
Yeah, I think the lunacy, to Rob's point, is what makes the show for me. Like, I love how over the top and ridiculous it is. You're like, so what? Let this guy open up a karate studio. We just won't go. Like, Jesus Christ, But yeah, it's just funny, and then the whole like every plot line is outrageous over the top. The Hector Salazar in Mexico is his gangster father, all resolved within one episode by the by, right? Which is fine. You brought the story here, and then you finish that, you move on to the next storyline. The Crease in prison thing, it happens, and then he orchestrates his whole escape. All kinds of fun stuff like that. I think it just fits this formulation for the show, 20-30 minute arcs. But I whipped together a quick list. We watched this a little while ago, so my memory may have faded a little bit, but of my favorite,
which wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But this is the show that you watch, you enjoy, and then you move on to the next thing, right? You have an afternoon off. It fills up your afternoon with some laughs, right? So the 3 moments that really got me this season was moment number 3 is Amanda Larusso getting into a bar fight. I actually thought this was potentially going to turn off into a spin-off where she starts to deal with her past, and it becomes like a whole new cycle of storyline. But it was just like a 1 episode cameo, and they brought back his Daniel LaRusso's love interest from Karate Kid 3, which I still stand by as an absolutely terrible movie. But this show continues to make it look like this gem, especially the previous seasons, which Rob might have liked better, where it was like, cannot give in to opponent, must not lose to whatever.
Did you know who that girl was?
No.
Yeah, it's Robin Lively. Do you know who Robin Lively is?
Blake Lively's sister.
It is.
Are you serious? Sister or mother?
Sister.
Oh, wow. Are you effing with me?
Get serious. Yeah.
I have no idea, but she was the girl from Karate Kid 3, so I thought it was a neat tie-in. Moment number 2 is all the bad guy team up. So this is where we get to the Daniel LaRusso problem. So Johnny Lawrence teaming up with Chosen, like, this is cool. The 2 villains from the first and the second movie, and then later on we have a Mike Barnes team up with all 3 of these villains.
He looks like David Hasselhoff in this photo.
He does kind of like, especially with the vest and everything.
Yeah.
But I loved, like, I think these characters are what people get drawn to. Like, you love the villain either turning into a good guy or being a reluctant hero or being this crazy aloof dude. So all the villains, I think, shine in this series. Why we're having such a problem with Daniel LaRusso? Like, maybe he needs to turn fully to the villain side. But I think the problem, I'll save my Daniel LaRusso theory till after. And then the number 1 thing that I thought was crazy, and it's a stupid moment, but when Daniel LaRusso catches that stupid silver sting move, which is the dumbest move on the planet, it's like a strike between, it's like a poor man's 1-inch punch or something like that. And when he catches it with his knee and his elbow, it's the funniest thing in the whole series, I think, for me. I thought that was great. But yeah, I don't know. I just really like the obscurity of everything that's happened. That all these high stakes. They even make fun of it in the series, the karate war and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I am invested in the younger characters, so I want to see them continue to grow and stuff like that. So that's why I'm down for another season. Yeah.
But did you think that they did your boy Mike Barnes dirty? Because he's all ready for that fight, and he gets knocked out in the head, and that's it. He's done.
He comes back. He comes back and finishes the fight. But yeah, he did conveniently get knocked out, and he didn't move quite as well when you saw him. Yeah,
he's an actual martial arts champion. Like he's like a 3 or 4 time world like martial arts champion. Like it blew me away that he was there. You saw him in the quick cameo, and then at the end of the season, you're like, he's gonna fight, and he gets dunked, and you're like, and he's out. That was it.
See you later.
Yeah, and for the most of the fight, he was gone until he woke up and he like speared some guys like Goldberg. He speared some guy.
I suspect, either maybe he was. He definitely did not look like the most skilled performer in the mix, but maybe he's not currently in practice, or maybe it's an injury, or maybe they just didn't want him to look head and shoulders above the other guys, maybe, or something like that.
Well, those are all UFC fighters too, eh? All those henchmen.
Yeah, those are funny. I like the eye patch guy. That guy was my favorite. He did nothing, but he wore an eye patch.
As all dudes with eye patches, that's what happens. Yeah. What else you got, John? Is that it?
Well, I guess I'll throw out my Daniel LaRusso theory. My theory with Daniel LaRusso is we've watched him through the first 3 Karate Kid movies.
Yeah.
And even though he's the hero of the movie, he does not come off as the most skilled fighter. So you, like Rob said, you don't believe that he is and in the series they try to sell him like he is the top dog. He is the Miyagi level, and it just doesn't work. I think people aren't buying it. That's why everyone was always like, oh man, I hate Daniel LaRusso, or Daniel LaRusso is a douche, or he's the worst thing about the series. So I think they need to figure out a way to retool him. They kind of had it for a second there when they were like, oh, I once saw him break,
that was the scene where
and then he's like, I once saw him save a girl from a tornado. And he's like, oh, I once saw him do this. Like when he kind of became that like kind of legend that kind of in his head figures out, I guess, the solution to the puzzle or shows through his heroics. But I don't think he can show it through.
No, I think John, to
your
point that was the scene specifically placed with Chosen and Johnny Lawrence talking about how they were bested by Daniel LaRusso, and just in terms of his will is what defines him.
I think they need to figure out a way to write it that they're selling that.
I think they just said that basically he, not through martial arts, but basically he just by guile and willpower bested both of them, and both of them kind of admitted that they're better fighters, but Daniel just had the inner strength to do what they couldn't do.
He can catch the silver bullet.
Because I think and at the end of the day, like I think both those movies, as you've said you saw them, they were always presented as the better fighters. Like there was no doubt that those two were better than Daniel LaRusso. Daniel LaRusso, the difference between him and the other two was that his force of will was what defined him rather than the other one, and that was what was kind of missing. And Terry Silver brought that out at him in this season, which is why I thought it was a little more redeemable, because again, he kind of got under Daniel's skin, and Daniel started doing a couple weird things this season, which is fine. Like that's what you want. You want the character to make the main our protagonist, as you would say, in the protagonist in freaking in in Tenet, like you want him to be something different, and I appreciated that. Back to my point before, when I was saying, I forgot why. I don't know why I said Mouse. Kenny is who the show should be. Like if you're gonna, in my mind,
you could cycle in the newer, younger.
The next season should wrap up. It should be done. This whole thing, wraps up with the old guys, Daniel, Johnny. Terry, John Cleese, all these guys disappear in the background, and then Kenny moves forward as the main character going forward. Because frankly, his storyline is more interesting. He's the character that is being pushed around, is in the army, and he finds something in Cobra Kai that helps define him and gives him the inner strength. That's what the show really did a good job of emphasizing, that these misfit toys were coming together, and they were getting empowerment through karate and through this organization, and making them feel like they were something more. And same with Hawk and everyone else, and Miguel and all the other characters. in terms of Cobra Kai is that they use this to kind of bring it together. Even Samantha Larusso, like everyone, Robbie, these characters were, all needed that structure that karate can bring, and that's kind of the selling point of karate and martial arts, is it gives you structure and gives you focus. So that's the underlying thing. But yeah, we should.
Which is really weird because those are two items that were sadly missing in season 5. But I digress.
Would you prefer if it was like a sports show? If it was like about karate tournaments and going through them and stuff? I don't know.
Because I think they did it already. Like they did that stuff. Like now it's the point where it's like you should be
The
like,
quest.
the quest. Yeah, that was directed and written by
Frank Dukes.
Yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I don't mind them swinging for the fences. The show's ridiculous enough that they should. I just think that, to your point, is that they tried really hard to convince that Daniel LaRusso is a badass, and it's just, to everyone's point, it's not believable. He has to now just be that guy and pivot the other direction to say Daniel LaRusso is not the best, but through willpower, like he needs to have his arm broken and still fight. Like he was hurt in the other tournament, and he just needs to be the best Green Lantern. His willpower should just force him to win, no matter what the situation is. So that should be the ultimate end game of Daniel LaRusso. But it had its moments, and I think Chosen was truly the most interesting part. I hope he doesn't die, because I think he was mortally wounded.
I was like, wait, it look he was dead. They made it look like he was dead.
Like I was like, oh, did he just? What? I'm like, he was such an interesting character, and I'm like, oh, he's back. And then it was like, oh yeah, and he was like, he went undercover. I was like, what an arc for Chosen. Like I was like, oh, he'll come up, and there's like, nope, he's undercover in the Cobra Kai.
He has love. He's found love, and that's.
I was like, what is happening? It's so crazy.
Right. Definitely MVP of the series for sure.
Yeah, like he was the best. I'm like, I didn't see this arc coming where he basically like The Departed undercover doing stuff. What is happening?
And then he got outed by cheersing.
I know. I had to raise my marking because of that. I'm like, I can't get like Rob. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't great, but I'm like, that whole Chosen arc.
Bastards.
That was like, it's the numbers. It's like, it's like 3, right? And he's like, no,
steal this plot
like
element right here.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so good. Oh my gosh. I enjoyed it immensely. So John, how many, like, in your perfect world then, where do you see this? Like what's your prediction? Like I made the joke with Rob about going to space and time traveling. Like what's the end game? Like what's their Fast and the Furious moment where they're gonna fit? Like what's the prediction for the future?
I think of course we've mentioned next Karate Kid, Hilary Swank. Rumors is that she's Tori's mom or something like that, right? I think if they bring in an arc like that, maybe turn her into a villain would be kind of cool. But I'm like a Chosen, like, okay, when I say spin-off, I mean like maybe a couple episodes here or there, not like a freaking 10 episode order of like a Chosen,
not like House of Boba Fett Chosen. No,
yeah, not something like that. But I would definitely be interested in seeing these characters continue. So I definitely would be very sad if this was the end. But we know for a fact that there's at least one more season, and I think they just announced a movie or something like that.
But that's not tied though. That movie is not tied to this universe.
Really?
The creators of Cobra Kai said that it's not tied to whatever they're doing. They do so, like Dan LaRusso came out and said, like, listen, we've got a lot of stuff in the works, whether they're movies, other TV shows, like to John about spinoffs. But that movie that Sony announced is completely separate from this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's not going to be starring Ralph
Karate
Macchio.
Kid properties.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, the next thing they could do, Stu, is they could bring in Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith, and then that would probably be their Fast and the Furious going to the moon moment. If either of those characters shows up, or Will Smith shows up. So yeah.
Was Will Smith in the other? Was he in?
He produced it. He produced the show.
In it.
He wasn't in it. No.
These shows too,
but his name is attached. Yeah. His name. You see him during the opening credits. So if he somehow appears, that'd be interesting too.
Jackie Chan would be
an immense get for them. Yeah.
Jackie Chan would be bonkers. That's an interesting thought. Okay.
Rob Smith would be pretty crazy.
Jaden you can get. he's not doing much. But Jackie would be.
Though, that movie though is separate from the entire.
Or is everything.
It? Or it now that we've set these different karate houses, maybe he's the next, like the other part of the secret organization, the Illuminati version of things. Rob, you just don't know. This could be the Marvel like different houses where one is Hydra, one is Shield, one is Aztec Byzantium, one is AIM. These could be things. This could be interesting. Jeez, Rob, what do you think? What's your prediction? Where do you think they're going?
Well, listen, guys, this is going to come across as being negative. I think they're going to milk the shit out of this property for all that it's worth. I don't think Karate Kid is Cobra Kai is going to end. You're going to get this new movie from Sony that will have nothing to do with this series. I think it'll confuse fans. The Cobra Kai brand will continue in some form. You'll get season 6. You'll have a spinoff. Maybe they'll do Netflix, like made for Netflix movies that will differentiate the one that Sony's doing that will be in theaters. In this day and age of universes and world building and everything else, I have more respect for the property that goes and burns bright and then says, and we're done. And that's it, and leaves their mark, as opposed to just saying, hey, we're going to continue to build and build and build and build and build, because not everything needs its own, this massive universe. And so I personally don't think that Karate Kid or Cobra Kai has the stamina to go. I think it will burn bright if it's burning bright now. And it's going to drop like a lead balloon because I just don't think there's anything that's really going to keep people invested in this IP. So I'd rather them have restraint than, I don't know, it's not greed. I don't know what it is, but I'd rather them just end it and be happy with what we have.
So what you're saying is that if let's say, for example, Miguel, Robbie, Samantha, Hawk, and Kenny were walking on the street, and all of a sudden Putty started fighting them and they turn into Power Rangers, and that's the next evolution. And then they become Power Rangers. Could that, if this morphs into the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, would you, because that's clearly what's happening, because why would you know more?
But unfortunately Red Ranger Miguel will no longer be there because he is the Blue Beetle. So
let's be, if that movie comes out.
Yeah, they're committed. They said it's coming out, and it'll be.
They said we've heard this before, but the acts of Zaslav happens all the time. So they also said we love Batgirl.
Yeah, I think Blue Beetle will come out for sure. He himself has said it's coming out, so I guess you have to go with what he's saying. So I'm under the assumption and the impression that Blue Beetle will be coming out. So what does that mean for Miguel in season 6? I have no idea. I wish him nothing but the best of success. I don't know where, it's an interesting idea about having a spinoff for Kenny. But I think he's annoying. He's an annoying little turd, and I really couldn't give a shit. To be honest with you, just equally, I find that LaRusso's kids are both like, I hate Sam. I think Sam, somebody should, karate chop her in the throat. Like in that first episode when Miguel calls her and she's like, "Oh my God, where have you been?" And he's like, "I'm okay." She goes, "Everybody's been worried about you." And he goes, "I just came down. I needed to get away." And then she's like, "You didn't even ask how I did in the tournament." And he's like, "But wait, this is not about you." And she goes, "Yes, it is. Okay, you didn't enter." And I was like, I looked at my side, I got no, and I was like, "What the fuck, man? Are you kidding me right now?" She's like, "Are you alive? Is everything okay?"
That was her arc, though. That was her arc, that she just cared about it too much, right?
Maybe it is. Maybe, you know what, guys? I have an 11-year-old. I'm dealing with a lot of girl drama and hearing about it every day. I don't need to be then plugging into something else.
That's some realism right there, Rob. That's some realism right there. So
I don't need it. I'm living it every day, guys. I don't need it.
I think the show is still teaching very good life lessons. Kind of.
Teaching life. Yes, if you're gonna fight, please don't do it on stage or in a hallway because people can get hurt. Yeah, on a
staircase. Want to be breaking people's backs and recovering miraculously with milk cartons and bungee cords. Yeah. Like John made an interesting. He talked about how Dimitri, I think it was John, said Dimitri was relegated to like a walk-on role, and it's too bad because a lot of those those kids, those actors, like they're really interesting to watch in those seasons. Like I was like really intrigued by them, and then to just like throw them away for the service of this, like I told you guys before, this plot, I was just like, I don't care about this shit. I want to see these guys, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know. Whatever.
But we have like so this is basically a half a season, right? Because the idea was there's 2 seasons that were filmed back to back, and normally Cobra Kai doesn't come out till Christmas time is what they usually do. So could you argue that maybe you've only seen the first half of a big story arc that they're telling?
Well, so this is So my understanding was that they filmed 5 and 6 pretty much back to back. My son though said that he was watching an interview with the creators, and they said they haven't even started writing season 6 yet. So now I'm like, wait, did they film 4 and 5 back to back, or 5?
Maybe it was 4 and 5 back to back. Yeah,
I get all confused. COVID. I don't know what was happening.
Okay, yeah,
so,
yeah, maybe. Well, they got to finish up that silver arc, so maybe that's what it is. Oh, nonetheless, I think Rob complains, but he'll be back for the next season. It is what it is. So we look forward to season 6 of Cobra Kai, potentially in space, or at the lost city of Atlantis, or in the Solitude of Sanctus in Antarctica, or maybe in a cornfield in the middle of Kansas. We'll see what happens. We'll see what's in store. Rob, it is what it is, my friend. Just smile and nod. John, tell us what's going on. Where can they find you in the Desert of the Real and online?
Yeah. So online, Heroes World Online take you to our Instagram and Facebook. Those are our most active social media platforms. You can message us through those or comment on things, and we'll do our best to get back to you on the ASAP. You can find our online store, Heroes World Online, links in the description, all that kind of jazz. And if you want to visit us in person, 8601 Warden Avenue in Markham, Ontario. Tons and tons of fun stuff. Lots of goodies for you to check out and take a peek at. Even some Cobra Kai action figures. So come on by.
Awesome. Rob, what's going on?
Oh boy. So the Heroes World Sidekick Show every Monday night, 8:15 p.m. live, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. We are traveling down the road that even Lil Nas X didn't want to travel down. We're going down the Fury Road. We are doing a revisit of Mad Max Fury Road, which just letting everybody know, I saw once and I did not like it. And everybody thought there was something absolutely wrong with me and I was out of my gourd. So it is currently on Netflix in Canada. If you haven't seen it, then I would suggest firing up your own Netflix account, checking it out, and joining John and I on Monday night, because is Fury Road the superior sequel to its predecessors? We're going to talk about that Monday night, 8:15 p.m. live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
I have thoughts, but I'll say nothing, and I'll look forward to watching your podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Be safe out there. Enjoy your day. And let us know your thoughts on Cobra Kai Season 5. And have a good one. Bye. And John is frozen. Bye, everyone.
Perfect. Now we can talk about him.
Am I unfrozen?
No, you're frozen.